Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a creator request, which is where a smaller artist gets in contact with me and asks me to check out their stuff. Today we're going to be looking at a band called Apollonir. Interesting title. They reached out via email, said we're a small band from the US, dig the channel, dig your music tastes. If you like Belmont, you'll definitely like us too. And Belmont was pretty slick. We're both 18-year-olds and have self-produced this song ourselves, which would mean the world to us if you would check it out. So, let's do this. You guys have 6 subscribers. Let's see if we can increase that this weekend. Let's dig into the song Jack. I'm curious what that's Morse code, isn't it? I'm curious what it says. Playing around with a lot of tonal dissonance in the guitar work. Drums are a bit playful with the snare. Bringing the cleans. I'm digging it. Layered vocals. You guys are here for my heart. Bit of a rough transition there, but purposeful, I'm going to assume. Interesting, going to a full-bodied version of the verse. You got 3 guitars going right here with the bass and the 2 vocals. Oh no, just the 2 guitars. We lose the chords. Just ending on the tension. Didn't even resolve the idea, much less the chord. Wow. There we go. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you guys are after my heart. It's exactly what I want of music. Um, at least in this style of music. You guys nailed it all. I do have a couple of criticisms. Apollonir, if you're watching this video, I'll save them till the end though. I want to work with the positives. But I do have a couple of things that I felt could have been improved a little. First of all, though, the vocals are dominant in the mix, which makes sense for the style of music. They also have the most dynamic quality to them between the two styles, and even juxtapositions between the two styles and variations within them, even. So it makes sense to put them in the forefront, but I think it's also a really smart decision, just given that they are exceptionally strong. Like I said, we also have some diversity within the two styles as well, so there's enough here that keep it dynamic, um, and keep the song moving forward and feeling fresh. But it's also the vocalist is really great, just right up my alley as far as vocal styles go. So some of that might be colored in a little bit of bias, but the vocals in here are phenomenal. Um, the guitar work I really like. In the verse they're fairly functional, but when we get to the chorus, we actually hear some really interesting ideas going on in that our right guitar is chord based and our left guitar bounces between two different notes which are atonal amongst themselves but also atonal against what the chords are doing, and it introduces some tension to the track that we wouldn't have otherwise. And I feel like tension is a really strong aspect of this song. We also have the, weighty, heavier breakdown section that comes after the second chorus and before the third, if I remember that correctly. And that section introduces more tension. We have quite a bit of tension in the verse as well. Like I said, it's a functional guitar line. We don't really focus too much on pitches or anything like that. It really is just about having a lot of tension introduced from the guitar. So overall, the song has this baked in atonality in every aspect of it almost, and our left guitar is what introduces that. But interestingly, we do two repetitions, and I don't know how many bars we're working on, so I'm not going to tell you how many bars we take up here, but we do two repetitions of this, and then we have a third part, and it's the third quarter of the chorus, and our right guitar actually shifts over to a few different notes that kind of lean into something quasi melodic, but also plays into probably something closer to a riff. And it creates this gap where the chords used to be this foundational bed they're missing, and now we have something that plays off of the contrasty atonality in the left side. And so we have a bit more balance here in that these two ideas are bouncing off of each other, but we're also missing this bed. And so it also feels empty while also feeling rounded out. It's a very interesting concept, but we don't sit in it for very long, just a quarter of the chorus before we strip that element back out and put the chords back here on the right side. It's an interesting decision because, like I said, it does introduce this element of spatial awareness, but it's also real quick and we fill it back in. So it creates a contrast. It's I don't quite know what to read into it. It could have just been done for the sound factor. You listen to it and you're like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's go with it. But there might have been some more purpose to it, and I'm not seeing it, unfortunately. But it is very choice, and I like it. um, the drums are primarily functional throughout a lot of this. I love the snare accents. Every section has a really cool snare pattern to it that is peaked in our build up to our outro, where we have these gorgeous snare roll fills at the end of the standard patterns. I pointed them out. I can't remember. Was that like 2 minutes and 50 seconds into the track, maybe 3 minutes into the track, somewhere around there. I just love that moment. The snare idea is just so good, and we build up into this. If you really key yourself into what the snare is doing, especially against what the rest of the drum kit is doing, there's just these really nice snare accent patterns throughout the track, and it builds intensity to that point. And at that point, it's interesting because we've actually come down, but the snare patterns allow us to build up, which allows us to cleanly move back into some of the heavier sections. It's really well done. I don't know if any of that is intentional, if it's conscious, or if you're just like, this feels like a good drum fill to play, and you do. But there is this really nice sort of roller coaster ride within the drum work throughout the entire track that works very well at controlling the pace of the song while keeping it moving forward. Um, and then transitions. There were a couple of really smooth ones. There were a couple of harsh ones. I'm going to assume they were all purposefully placed. I'm not as big of a fan of, especially that harsh one. We went from the breakdown section to the pop rock section. That one was a bit too harsh for my taste, but also given the tension and atonality and just general abrasion throughout the song, I think having that harsh juxtaposition lines up with a lot of the other themes going on in the music. So I'm just going to chalk that one up to my personal tastes. And it's very possible after repeat listens, I'll come around to it. Which even that brings up an interesting conversation, though, is that a lot of this track is fairly abrasive, whether it's a tonality abrasion or rough transitions. And then we do have those two moments of either pop rock or even just straight up pop at times with that forward placed clean vocal, and we kind of bring back a lot of the atonality and the dissonance, and we just have these really clean guitar lines and laid back drum bits. The bass comes in pedal tone style, and they do stand out quite a bit once you realize how much atonality is present and dissonance is present throughout the rest of the track. And so I'm excited to get to the lyrics to see what's going on there. If we have ideas of duality, or possibly those moments of the song represent a different side of the story or something like that. Like, they're drastically opposed to each other, and that makes the chorus interesting too because we see both sides simultaneously. We have the clean vocals with the catchy hooks. We have the clean chord progression underneath on the right side, but our left guitar is bringing in the tension. What's that about? I don't know. Do I have anything else I want to say before we head into the lyrics, though? Oh, yeah. One negative, right? One piece of criticism is the production. You guys said you self-produced. Um, Production is one of my biggest sore spots when it comes to music creation. So I'm not saying this from a place of thinking that I'm better or like a place of superiority or anything. But a majority of the time, I would say the production is fine. There are some places where I think it could be a little cleaner, it can be rounded up, can just be just have some roughness shaved off. But I think in particular, the one thing I would probably focus on is the low end bass kicks, bass guitar. Um, there was one note closer to the end of the track. I wish I could remember where it was. I think we were just coming into a heavy section, and it was just super muddy, but the bass was also clipping. And I think that was the specific thing that keyed me into it, is that it was a lower note and it clipped really heavy. And then that made me listen to the bass kicks, which are very boomy. And they don't sound bad on their own. It took me that long, through the song to really notice how loud the bass kicks are. So I don't think that it's a problem in particular, but definitely look at the bass end and check the volume levels and see when it starts to clip and maybe back it down or compress it a little bit so it doesn't. Because there are certainly times when you can use clipping to your advantage, and at that section, it didn't add to the sound, it detracted from it, and it came off feeling a little um, amateurish, I suppose would be the word. But it's really only one time I think that the clipping came through. But the a general bass muddiness is kind of happening throughout. Just cleaning up the low end, I think, is going to help your sound pop more. Um, and it may even clean up some of the other aspects that I think are a little rough with the production. But like I said, they're not anything that stand out to me if I wasn't listening so intently. So I think you're generally fine in that way. I'm gonna check the lyrics and then we'll wrap this up. Lyrically, I'm a little lost on it, but I'm not great at poetic analysis anyways, so I'm gonna place that one on me. It does seem to be, though, I get a general gist of two people who may have been close at one time and no longer are, but uh, at least one person, our narrator, feels like they should just throw it all away. Anyways, that there's no point in having this halfway point, that if it can't be the way it was, it shouldn't be at all. And well, is that the narrator? See, I get that idea from, well, there's a couple of sections in here where there seems to be a lot of animosity towards this other character. But the one section that I see this, it says, why not just let it go, throw it away, forget it, and just let it go. But that was also a backing vocal, which I forgot to bring up, the fact that we had the screams and cleans at the same time, and I am a sucker for that. So good. So I don't know if that second voice is also supposed to show us the thoughts of our narrator, or if that is supposed to be another character in the story. I don't know. But we do have elements of that in the lyrics. Interestingly, though, this also gets flipped on its side at times where we see elements of, I don't like you. Why are we even trying this anymore? But we also see the opposite of that, of pretty typical emo self deprecation. Says, blame it on me. You're a bad whip, but I'm also a bad horse. So why'd you put your money on me? I have broken legs. Shoot me dead on the count of three. So, there's a little bit of self deprecation. There's a little bit of understanding that this relationship isn't working, um, or friendship, whatever it is. And, it could also not be about two people, but it could be about something else as well. It could be a conversation with, your psyche, your mental state, the voice in your head. There's all sorts of ways that this can go, but there's two people who aren't good for each other. Um, or two, we're going to go with people. And that's kind of the gist I get out of it, which, I mean, it brings me back to some of the musical ideas. The motif of atonality works really well here, in that the two people don't work together, and many of the notes that are selected for the song don't create harmony; they create dissonance, which is it works really well in tying that together. But as far as the general structure of the song and the poppier sections, I'm not quite sure how they work into this, but it's quite possible that it's just the music that's created that way, right? So yeah, those are my thoughts on Apollonir's Jack. I'm gonna be keeping an eye on this group. I've subscribed. I've given a thumbs up for this one. I see there's one other track, but it's a lo-fi version. Maybe there's some more. I don't know. I gotta go check them out. Like I said, I'll be keeping an eye on this. I'll be looking for an EP when it drops. Yeah, they have another song called Running Hot Lo-Fi. So I gotta look into that. Um, I don't know. Put your thoughts in the comments though. In the description box, usually I got my links. Instead, we're gonna put Apollonir's links. If I can find any sort of social media, streaming platforms, everything that I can find is gonna go in there. I see they have a link tree, so hopefully I can get a bunch of good stuff. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. Make sure you head on over to any of their sites. Like, subscribe, hearts, favorites, bells to ring, whatever. Show them some love if you enjoy what they're doing. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 9 p.m. UTC. As usual, we're going to do an album review. It's going to be pretty gnarly if people are hyping this song up the way it is. I think I'm going to have a tough time getting through it. So if you like to see me in distress over music, which I feel like some people do in the community, that's what's happening tomorrow. Until next time, remember to be critical and not cynical about the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening.